Thanked everyone for being here. Last presentation with Andrew Green, and the arts and cultural series this year has replaced what was the old book club. I had a dear friend approach me 3 summers ago and say that they'd asked him to take over the book club, but he preferred to have it be more diverse, not just another author, another Wednesday. And Charles, Mr. Hooser, here we are with a diverse program. We've had to, and I give all the credit to Charles. We're going to have candlelight music at the camp. We're going to have a violinist come over from ASU. We're going to have a number of things, including some authors. And that's going to be a fantastic mix of art and culture. It's what Linville loves and comes to see. The books are great. Dudley White's going to do one for us later in the summer, and if you're not here, you're missing maybe the best presentations of the summer. I'm just saying.
Don't play that.
but Charles Hooser had that kind of put that bug in my ear a couple summers ago, and in doing that, we had Andrew Green a couple weeks ago explaining the next generation and the restoration of our golf course, and then tonight, Bill Steins, Mike Bowers, and myself are going to try to walk us through the 100-year history of our Donald Ross Golf Course. Now, you will help in that. We will spur questions. We will do that at the end. We're going to go through this in a decade progression, starting in the 20s, ending now. We'll walk through that. I know it's going to spur a question about something that David Wiley's parents saw. And David and Sandy, thank you for being here. We thought Ben Russo was going to be the oldest in the room, but you guys took it. No, we really do appreciate everybody being here. And Mike's going to drive us here, and starting with the plaque that's in the first fairway, and we did a dedication on June the 9th. And I want to read the plaque to you, if you can't see it. If you were there, thank you for being there. If not, we had a great day hitting golf balls towards the plaque, as Mr. McCrae had challenged us to do in the 20s. And it says, "Surely the tree itself that stood upon this spot, the first that was to fall, would look upon this scene and find it good. The slopes, the streams, with wide skies over all. And here, content in pleasant sport, we meet our friends and foes and find them hard to beat. First tree felled in construction of this golf course by Hugh McCrae, June 9th, 1924. I can't imagine the excitement Mr. McCrae had that day. First of all, he's out there. We know it's not a chainsaw. It's a crosscut saw. And he's felling the first tree. I'm hoping he wasn't picking a big tree. But to know that his family had founded Linville back in 1892, and that the new golf course was going to be built by this renowned golf course architect, Donald Ross. So Mr. Ross came in with topographical surveys, hiked the land for 2 days in what everyone called a rhododendron bog. If you can imagine looking down from the second tee down into the valley that we think is so fantastic, you know it had to be covered in rhododendron and thickets. Imagine hiking through that. We've all hiked through the mountains here, and if you get off that path, it is dense. But for 2 days he hiked that path. And with his topographical survey, there's a great picture right there. I mean, that's in the 30s, maybe late 20s. They let cows and sheep pasture on the land in the wintertime. You can see in there some of the fencing. And now we've started a restoration of our beautiful golf course, and we're going to move into the future, but now we're going to continue in the past. In your invitation, or in the announcement, it said we were going to talk about a noble club. A couple people have asked me about that today. What does that mean? Well, this logo was devised back in the early part of the century, and it reads, Ex Montibus Venit Auxilium Nobis. And the translation is, from the mountains comes a noble club. I don't know how you say something more gracious and more wonderful about a place that you love and live. from the mountains was devised this fantastic club. Our forefathers thought, worked, and just did everything they could to save this from everything. So you think about this, it's 1924. 5 years later, we got the Depression starting with the Great Crash. It's a fantastic, amazing part that we're still here. A noble club. What a fantastic place to be part of. You should be proud. You know, we're now at 132 years of history, but we're talking about 100 years of history of this Donald Ross golf course. So I could stay here for 2 days and talk, but we're going to try to stay on topic. So we're going to move from decade to decade, and obviously this was in 24 that the first tree was felled. But in the 20s, lots of things were happening because we didn't just get a golf course in 2 days. So there was a topographical survey that Ross worked on, I mentioned that earlier. He sent plans back here that almost fit perfectly, but not exactly perfectly. And in 2 years, the folks in the Linville Valley built that golf course. So they were playing golf here in 1926. The David Wiley family was fantastic. They unearthed the original invitation to the inaugural golf match in 1928. Hayden Cook, where is she? Tell her. Okay, so this is David's granddaughter, found this in a drawer in his home. So that August 18th of 1928, now we've been playing golf for 2 years, but the clubhouse hadn't been built yet. The golf course was maturing, as we saw with the cattle, it wasn't there yet. But in 1928, Tommy Armour, who many in this room would have known, came to Linville to play an exhibition match with Roland Hancock, also a very well-renowned golf professional in the South, on August 18, 1928. Might give the picture of the clubhouse.
No.
So the golf clubhouse it's pictured right here. Fantastic building. Huge. Well, in those days, golf professionals were not as highly regarded as they are today. Cy Strickler, I know Helen's here, right? Yes. So Helen's grandfather was here in 1928, and he sought out Mr. Armour to speak to him in the clubhouse. He had to go into the basement to speak to the golf pro because the caddies and professionals weren't allowed in the clubhouse. That was for club members only. And when I'm talking about basement, dirt floor. Dirt floor. So, again, thank you to all these families, and I want to make sure I do recognize a couple of the folks that really have helped curate a lot of this for me, to which I will give to the club. We're going to hope to figure out where to put it all. Some of this is Mike's, most of it's mine, or ours. But Hugh McRae and John Pottle have gifted me much of their own personal collections over the years. There's a letter back in the back on one of the tables from Hugh McRae in 2012, where he recounts his memories of his lifetime of the golf course. Writes me this beautiful letter, and he would do this maybe twice a winter. I'd get this package in the mail from Hugh McRae, and you know it's handwritten. It's a wonderful letter saying, "Tom, I found this. I thought you'd like it." That makes me the luckiest guy in the history of this club. The Morgans have given me a bunch of stuff. I mean, it's just, we're curating this for the history of the club, and we will put it together. Again, I got off track. I'm sorry. Obviously, it's a love of mine, and I could do this for 2 days. But going through the 20s, many of the tournaments, Mike, you put that list up there. It'll help me stay on track. So the exhibition golf match. But in the 30s, a number of early tournaments. The Ladies Invitational started. We hosted the Carolinas Amateur a few times. One of them won by Nelson McRae. The 40s, a little transition is coming. In the 40s, there was obviously this war. We don't have any money in Linville. It's a resort. So it's now in its 40, 50 year year of being in business, and no one's coming to the mountains, no one's traveling. So Linville makes makes a contract with the Tufts family out of Pinehurst. And they have a option to buy. And in the late 40s, they decide they can't make it work. Now, to review, the Tufts family is the family that made Pinehurst work. They decided they couldn't make Linville work. So a number of the cottagers, McQuains, Van Landinghams, Morgans, a number of other families decided that we need to save our mountain community. And they get together and they say, you know what, we're going to fix this. In 1951, they hired John Potter. And when I say a flinty New Englander, you know what I mean. I recall stories of duct tape and baling wire fixing things. But again, in 51, we're post-war, no one's traveling. Think about just after COVID, no one was traveling. Well, imagine in 51, you couldn't get here. The roads were terrible, you weren't flying anywhere, but this flinty New Englander put us back together. And in 59, there's a couple things in there. The first four ball was in 52, the new clubhouse. Well, the fire in 51 burnt the clubhouse down. Or excuse me, in 52. The new clubhouse was built in 53, another couple of tournaments. But then in 59, the club was organized as it stands today. So Linville Golf Club has been a transition and evolution from the 1890s as a fully functioning resort, not a membership at all. And in 1959, under Mr. Powell's guidance, we end up with what turns out to be this fantastic club 70 years later. So in the 60s, we have another couple of great tournaments. In 1965, number 17 is redesigned, as similar to what we have today, and the 18th hole, the ditch is filled in. And I want to read this. I recently found this from a donation by the McQuain family. So Bill McQuain, which is Philip's grandfather, was the club chairman at the time. Maurice Smith, a fantastic golfer in the South, was a member here. He married the Kramer, Mrs. Julia Kramer, second marriage. Maurice Smith was a fantastic golfer and a consultant to Mr. Pottle and Mr. McQuain about the golf course. And this quote, I literally had this for less than a month, but it shows the value of one man's opinion. A very smart man. I'm sure you can't see it here, so I'll read it. So this is in the midst of redesigning our 17th hole, which Dudley would remember right there in her front yard.
It was very sad there.
Very sad, exactly. Dudley, when you hear this, you're going to be thrilled it wasn't worse.
Yeah.
And given I didn't wear any glasses, but. So this is Maurice Smith writing to Bill McQuain, the chairman of the club. The drastic treatment of number 17 has replaced a natural hole with a hole that did not use the natural terrain, but made it conform to a plan as if it were built on level ground. As a result, it is entirely different from the other 17 holes, looking somewhat like a railroad cut with an ugly gash on Lem Stevens hillside. That would be where the new house is being built today.
I-17, we call it.
I-17 they call it. And massive fills and steep slopes on the left. If the purpose of building this Robert Trent Jones hole was to make the membership dissatisfied with the present course, I think the result would be the opposite. I'm afraid it will solidify opposition to further changes. Maurice Smith, Linville member and course consultant. So had they done just a little bit better job on the 17th hole renovation, we would not be talking about a Donna Ross golf course. We'd just be talking about a 100-year-old multi-renovated golf course. Who knows whose name would have been on it. So we have 17 of 18 great holes. We're going to hopefully restore the 17th hole in a year or so and get back to somewhere similar to what Mr. Ross left us. But literally, I got that 10 days ago. We knew that this happened, and in the back, there's a couple of them. Y'all got to come see them. I mean, they're not great pictures. Okay. But they are literally two plans by Robert Trent Jones to remodel our entire golf course. And one of those plans, number 1 goes down number 18 backwards, number 2 goes down 17 backwards, and then there's multiple changes on the golf course. The other one, number 1 goes down number 18, or number 1 goes down number 1, but number 2 goes down 17. They're dramatic. We would not have the gym that we have. This one man writes this one letter and says, if we were trying to convince the folks of this renovation, we have done the opposite and we've turned them against it. And I want to write it. Mr. Maurice Smith lived to 101 or 102 maybe. Fantastic golfer, shot his age every year from age 69 to age 100 on this golf course. Everyone looked up to him, he was fantastic, but I never had as much respect as I did 10 days ago when I read that quote. That letter may well have saved our golf course. I just never saw anybody keeping it. So I just kept keeping it. And I've got a box in my office, I just call it the box. And it's from the old golf course, it's from the new golf course. Much of it's around the room. I've got some folks coming into town to look at it. And we'll figure, okay, you're in charge. My favorite phrase when I'm delegating, you're in charge. I've dominated the talk, I'm sorry. Our modern stuff that Andrew Green is going to take care of for us truly is a restoration. He's done a fantastic job. Mike's got a bunch of stuff he wants to talk about as well. A couple of caddy stories real quick though. Roll those up if you would. Caddies were a fantastic integral part of this club, and there's a couple of stories I don't want to miss. One being a couple of ladies are playing in a North Carolina tournament, and they've been in every creek, every bush, every trap. They're walking up the 16th hole, and one of the young ladies turns to the caddy and says, "Aren't you getting very tired, Mr. Vance?" "No, ma'am," he answered. "Not tired, just powerful homesick." And these are our friends and family. I mean, Frank Neighbors was having a bad round. He hooked one, sliced one, did everything necessary to stay out of the fairway and in the rough. And his caddy said, "Frank, is the green fees cheaper if you play out of the rough?" And Sandy and David and Dudley will remember this. Many times, the Linville folks called the caddies by their last name, Mr. Googe. But in return, Mr. Googe would say, "David, it's a 4-iron. Dudley, it's a 5-wood. One of the other ones, on number 11 in the 4-ball, a newcomer to the course missed his drive. He asked his caddy, "Well, sir," or he asked his caddy what to hit. He said, "Well, sir, you think you'll wood it or iron it?" "Well, this fellow's from out of town. Let's stay in the north." He says, "Well, I guess I'll iron it." The caddy said to him, "Well, you better iron hell out of it." And the last one I'll tell, Ralph Googe, who was maybe our most famous caddy after the caddy master, Jay Carter. He sometimes would accompany his foursome to the 19th hole. On one such occasion, I saw Charlie Gray, right? Is Charlie here? No. Mr. Charlie Gray the first, Charlie's the third, asked him to join him, and he poured him a whiskey neat, with which Ralph Googe straightaway handed it back with a tart remark, "Lord, Charlie, that ain't enough to color your breath." Okay, I know Mike wants to share some stuff, and I apologize for stealing the mic, but I know he's got a couple things that he's curated. You take it away.
So, thank you, Tom, and thank you everybody for coming. This is awesome, and I can listen to Tom all day. A couple of times I've spoken before, I've kind of gone through the golf course and kind of what it's meant to me, which covers even a little bit later than the 80s, really. So it's great to walk back in time with him through these stories. But, focusing really on what's around the room here. Tom's mentioned a couple of times how much stuff he's collected over the years and still finding it. That quote is a wonderful find. You know, that invitation is a wonderful find, parts of Linville history, and really what these artifacts are a way to connect these dots, you know, and find out things. There's things that should be included on here that we don't have included on here yet. So really through discovery and through, you know, really just searching, finding those things, you know, and Tom mentions one of the things. So recently, and eBay is a great resource. I mean, I think I searched Linville, North Carolina Linville Golf Club on eBay daily. I think a lot of us do. But I found on eBay, I found an article from 1929, and it's from the Asheville Sunday Citizen. And, which is weird that anybody would post that on eBay, but they did. And really what this does is connect the dots between that opening match between Tommy Armour and Roland Hancock, and connects the dots to the amateur tournament, the Carolinas Amateur, that was played afterwards. So in that article, and please, you know, it's to come up and take a look, but it's actually a picture of that opening match. You know, and I don't know how many of those pictures we have, or how many we don't, but it's a picture of that opening match advertising the upcoming amateur tournament that's going to be played at Linville. And that's really what I mean by connecting the dots. Right there, we're taking two great stories and two great things of the club, and really connecting it and weaving the thread between the two. And as you look around the room here, and as Tom mentioned, there's a lot more stuff. But as you look around the room, it's a great way to weave the dots. You know, not only with the golf course and how the golf course has evolved, in some cases changed, like Tom mentioned on 17, and changed in a way that was not favorable. But it also leads to the restoration, you know, and how we speak to that. And really the goal to be caretakers and to restore the golf course to what it should be and what it was intended to be. So these pictures, I know Andrew Green looked at all of them. These were guidelines. You know, these were, what do you think this is? What do you think this was intended to be? Is a lot of it. And discussing, and one of the things that was great about Andrew Green and Bill bringing, you know, him to us, and the whole thing is Andrew's knowledge of Donald Ross golf courses. Because a lot of these things he's seen other places. You know, well, based on what I've seen, I can tell that this is what he intended, and those things. So really, I think everybody that's seen with the restoration that's been so far with the 7 holes, it's been extremely favorable. There's no way it couldn't have been. He did a wonderful job with it. But really, connecting the dots is all of our responsibilities. Now, if we're all bidding against each other on eBay, please tell me. So we've actually had phone calls like that. This is a good one.
This must be only maybe 6 weeks ago. And Mike calls me. He says, "Are you bidding on
It's
this?"
during the Masters.
It was during the Masters golf
I'm
tournament.
working at the
And
Masters.
Mike works for Peter Millar, but he works the golf tournament during the Masters, so he has no time to talk to me. And I said, "Are you bidding on this?" He said, I'm not on there. I said, "Okay, Gunn Murphy's on there bidding on this, and he doesn't want to bid against you and me." So we got on a 3-way call and said, "Okay, no, you go for that one and you go for that one. We don't have to bid against one another." And we did get that.
We did get that, so that'll be included in what is curated. But connecting the dots is a big thing. And it couldn't, not everybody on eBay, obviously, but there's a lot of things around the homes here. You know, a lot of things that might be hidden in an attic somewhere. Could be anywhere, really. I mean, the property's so old and the homes have been changed so much. So please, if you have something of interest, or you think, don't necessarily think everybody else has it, because they...
And Sally Smith's right up front here, and she and I have been working on this historical committee since 2021, and we've asked for stuff, and a lot of things have come in. And we're gonna publish, we have, can you pull it up? A Google site, which we're organizing with many things. So it's cottagers, and it's golf, and it's the church, it's everything you possibly could think about Linville. And much of that stuff is on here. So website images, Avery history, buildings, churches, committees, communications, the lodge, events, founders, golf, Linville area, outreach, sports and activity. We're curating this as we go, and Sally's been a fantastic resource there because no one tells Sally no. Bring me your stuff. We've scanned a bunch of Dudley stuff. We've scanned a bunch of the McRae stuff, a bunch of the McLean stuff. Oh, speaking of, the senior 4-wall is the McLean trophy, FYI, donated by Philip's grandfather. If you didn't hear that, or you told Sally no, don't tell me no. We'll scan it, return it. This is not perfectly organized yet, but when it is, we'll get that out to you. We want you to be part of the living history of the club. It's never been there. What we know of this club is what we want to pass on to our families, friends, and loved ones. And we gotta get that. On there is, and it's actually on the website, you can get this on the website, Ashby Angel singing When We Come to Linville. This is a treasure. If you don't know Ashby Angel, that's the house by the practice tee. Ashby's 96.
No, she's younger than I am.
Oh, she's not even in your house.
She's actually my age, but she's not 93 yet.
Oh, not, so Dudley would have turned 93 in April. Ashby will turn 93 sometime later this year. But my point is, these are the things that we had to capture, and we did. We've got some oral histories of these folks, Sally Cooper, all the folks that always cared about us. If you don't know, the belt that Bill sells in the golf shop that has the Linville rendition on it. So you've got the Episcopal Church, the Presbyterian Church, the golf course, a bear, golf cart. Sally Cooper was that artist. It's just I never thought about saying that tonight, so if I look at her, I've got that belt that was needle-pointed for me. These are the things that your questions are gonna spur on here in just a minute, when we get done pontificating.
Sure. And the one other thing too is I've been lucky enough, to do with all of you, and I've been lucky enough to have friends here at Linville that have sparked my interest, in things like this, reading the history books, asking questions, asking for stories and different things like that. There's a new, younger generation of membership, and it's really everybody's responsibility, as caretakers, to really interest this younger membership in, that Linville is more than the mushroom fountain. There's more to it. There's more to it than that. There's more to what's the daily special. Really, there's a world of history out there, and people will be interested when they hear these stories. And to me, that's I'll have guests up, and I will make sure my guests drive by the plaque in the first fairway and see it, to have an appreciation for it, and to tell the stories how 4 used to be a par 4 and not a par 5. And the reason why it was changed, and why is the Ross tee up on the front tee and actually 50 yards in front of the blue tee on number 5. Little things like that, and tell the story of the golf course, and tell stories about the community, tell a story about Faye's store. I was lucky enough when I first started coming here, Tom would take me to Faye's store, and I was scared. He was like, you don't spoke until you're spoken to. But it's like I was lucky enough to have that, and then to hear the stories about, from young Gunn, where he told me how they used to babysit, and those things. So really connecting the dots.
They used to babysit all of us.
But connecting the dots not only between this historical timeline of events and Tom, it's like, okay, senior amateur this and that, it's great. But connecting the dots between the generations as well. I think that is really part of collecting all these things, seeing all these things, and the things that Andrew Green's doing. It's connecting the dots between all of these generations. And that's all of our responsibilities, to tell the stories. Because people will listen.
Which leads us to, not that we left out Bill, because he was a big part of why Andrew was here. And he's got a less history with us, but he's got a huge history with Don Ross golf courses, and I want him to help us with that perspective.
Thank you, Tom, and I'm so happy to see everyone here tonight. Also echo his thoughts on it with Sally Smith too. She's been so great to put this together, and it's so important to have a historian, and that's a very important thing for your club, someone that really cares and can collect all the information. And as they've already said, you never know when you pull open a drawer and you have some old papers in there and you look in there, that's when you're going to find something that is priceless to us. And it's as Tom's referred to, I came from a course where we celebrated our 100th anniversary of the Donald Ross course inside the Country Club in Columbus, Ohio. So I've experienced a lot of things, and we did a lot of the things that we're doing tonight, gathering information, trying to make sure everyone knows that how important it is to share the information, share stories and things like that that we can carry on for generations to come. We had Andrew Green came to Soda in 2019, and we closed the course and they rebuilt it, and everybody was saying, oh, it's a huge mistake, and they just had rave reviews there for the last 5 or 6 years. And now to have him come to Linville, my first experience here was going to the 10th green with Logan Jackson. He said, I have a question for you. What would you do with this green if you were in charge? And so I walked around, looked at the green, rolled a couple balls up, and I came down and I said, with my experience, Logan, I'm smart enough to realize one thing. I'm going to hire an expert to take care of this. I'm not going to be the one making that decision. And we were fortunate to get Andrew to come here, and I think it's going to be a blessing for the club for the long term. And congratulations to each one of you to allow it to happen, because so many places, oh, we don't want to do that, we're going to mess it up or everything, but I think we've got the right person, and we certainly have the right team here, and we're real excited about what he's going to do going forward. And should you share what we're doing this winter?
Absolutely.
This winter, last winter, we started out with those 6 guys from McDonald and Sons, and we kind of got off to a slow start. We had great weather, and we didn't get as much progress in the beginning as we thought. And then they came with more people, and we made a lot of progress and got 7 greens done. And we're looking into currently to get a company that's going to come in, and they're going to bring 2 teams of people and bring them in. And so if we get 2 teams, then you think of it this way: each team does 5 greens. You can have everything finished by the end of the season, except for 17, which the letter alludes to. We're saving the best for last. So, but anyway, we're real excited about what's coming with this opportunity to bring on additional people and additional workers, and we hope it works out. Obviously, weather is such a huge factor. You know, you get rain, you get snow, cold weather, warm weather, and that'll be a big factor in deciding how far we go this year. But we're very excited about it. We hope you are, and it's going to be really special in the end. So.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Mike. Now we'd like to turn it over for question and answer.
Excuse my voice. I think it would be in good taste to mention a couple of the notable golfers that have played this, and not least of which is Billy Joe Patton. As I recall, I played it the first time in 1971, so you know how old I am. I was a camper over at the camp. But Billy Joe, the old kind of clubs, would be able to get up on number 12 and drive to the creek, which we struggle now with the new clubs and everything.
So Bruce Reinhardt's asking about some of the notable folks that have been here. We've got some pictures. That's about Billy Joe Patton right there. So he's from Morganton, North Carolina, a fantastic amateur golfer. Led the Masters after 54 holes. Taylor, what year? 62-ish. Shot 60 at Linville. Yep. So that's about that same era right there. If you look in the background, the caddy and the rudimentary golf carts. So that's that same era. Bobby Jones was here, Arnold Palmer was here. But you go back to Tommy Armour and Roland Hancock, they've been some fantastic folks that have come through. A week and a day ago, Harold Varner was here. Harold's been here, a couple of dozen times maybe. Jim Colbert. Taylor Dixon was here last week. He's won twice on the Corn Ferry Tour in the last 2 months. Jim Colbert in the 70s has the course record for the new golf course with the 4th hole being par 5. So there have been quite a few famous folks that have come through. Anyone else? We spurred something. Joe.
I want to just reiterate how important it is, the point you guys made, especially Mike, about searching for artifacts, historical pictures, stuff like that.
He's asking about searching for artifacts and making sure that we gather them from our folks and homes and collections in Birmingham or in Charlotte or Winston.
And with the recent passing of Dean Stewart, we're clearly going to go through and see what may be in there.
So whatever's in that Dixon cottage, we will love to scan and return.
One of the great things that Dean may have, course. Miss Dixon, who was Stewart's mother, who died X number of years ago at 112,
112.
used to bring
Mama Dixon.
Mama D. She used to bring her friends up here, and they would have luau's at the house there on number 1. But the best part is, she would get them, and these are in these long black dresses.
Yeah, this is when the black dresses went up to here,
Yeah.
fitted, long sleeve, and poofed out to the ground. She led them in exercises behind the house in front of the first green to start their day. She showed pictures, and I might have them.
So, we're gonna try to find that.
We will take pictures of Mama D leading calisthenics behind the house on 1 grand.
You know there's a lot of that out there, so thanks.
There are. No, it actually was the pros, and thank you, Bill. Bill was asking about the mutual staff between Augusta National and Linville Golf Club. John Pottle, who I mentioned, was the manager from 51 to 83. In the early 60s, was also the manager at Augusta National for a number of years. And then starting in, let me go back and think about this. It would be 52 to 60 was Gene Stout. He was the golf pro both at Linville, excuse me, yeah, that's right, from 60 to 68. Steve Duda was here from 50 to 60. Gene Stout was here from 60 to 68. He was simultaneously the pro at Augusta National from 60 to 68. His assistant at Linville and at Augusta was Bob Kleckie. They ended up being co-pros at Augusta National. Then Gene Stout retires from Augusta. Dave Spencer comes on as the co-pro with Bob Kleckie. Bob Kleckie in 1968, when Gene left here, went to grandfather as their pro. So he was a grandfather in Augusta National at the same time. Just passed away in May, I believe, wasn't it? In May, had a home at grandfather all those years. So there were a number of folks, and when Mr. Pottle was the manager, many of the cooks and chefs would go back and forth winter and summer. The Hill dorm that's up here behind us was the African American dorm. They could walk, and literally almost all those folks came from Augusta National to cook and clean in the lodge in the 60s. Peter.
Yeah. Can you give us some highlights of some of the changes we might expect to see to make it more like the original Donald Ross course?
Certainly. No, we'll do it together, but he's used this map that we have behind us, and as they said, he's done a ton of research, and he's brought a couple of aerials where he can look down on the course, and they have to make certain decisions based on what they see on the map, because they really don't know for sure whether it was actually a bunker there, or whether it was some hummocks like we have now on 18 and 1. And there's certain places on the course where he'll go and then he'll look at pictures and try to get a good perception in his mind, and that's why then he'll make a final decision. It's really hard to say exactly what he's going to do on every hole, but reclaiming the edges is what he did to start, and he did a little more on certain greens and a lot more on 10 green where we totally replaced it. But he'll come in on a hole like number 2 and a hole like number 16. There's going to be some extensions right and left that'll be very similar to what you've seen on some of the other holes he's already done, i.e. 12, where you have a right flag placement and a left flag placement. There'll be some of that. And then when you get all the way to a hole like number 4, which was originally, it's been touched quite a bit, and they'll take that and probably move the green a little farther back towards the lake, and with a bunker left that is kind of cut off. So if the better players, like, hit it left there, they'll hit on the hard ground and go into the lake instead of being caught by the bunker. So those are some of the things. 5. Similar, there'll be a left bunker there that's in the original drawings that goes into the green. He really likes the idea of getting that back left part of number 5 green and having it being extended. out a little bit. There used to be in the middle of number 6 green, there was a pronounced ridge that went from the back to the front that's got flattened over the years. And several people, even Keith can remember when it was more prominent, and we talk about that a lot. And certainly the Cooks, who have both been here, remember it, and he's going to restore that. So there's a lot of features that were there that have gotten lost or flattened over the years that he'll come back and do things too. Number 9, they've never had a high-low high green, but it's in the drawing as a high-low high, which is an actual green that Ross used on some of his other famous courses. And he's talking about restoring that hole with that green. So I'm trying to think, 18, where you see how they've added the front right, front left, and the feature in the back to put it back like he assumed that it was originally. And they'll be similar to that. Holes like 3 there won't be big changes on some of those holes, because maybe just the tie-in of the front of the green, where sometimes you see it go up like this and you hit your shot and it hits just short and it stops instead of being able to bounce the ball in, things like that. So it'll be interesting, and when he gets, as we talk to him and getting more going, that's something we'll probably communicate with you all a little bit better if we do this much work and we can make progress reports on what's going on out there on the course. So, thank you.
What I want to highlight about what Bill is talking about, we know exactly what Donald Ross drew. We've got it. About 6 years ago, Aggie Woodruff, which was Aggie Morton, passed away. Her family gave me her original copy of the original drawing. It's in color. It's in the 1924-25 frame, so it's very important to me. Some of you recall, about 7 or 8 years ago, I mailed it out to the members I've been a golf pro for 25 years. It's our 125th year as a club. We're gonna have a great summer. So many of you have that. If not, it'll be online. My point is, there's a black and white one over here behind Marty. My point is, we know exactly what he drew. We don't know exactly what got built, but we have a lot of pictures. But in that case, and I can show you on this big one, Bill, if you don't mind helping me again. So we're going to look at the first bunch of holes are the same. We know about 4 and 5. Well, let's go to the turn house in this area. The topographical map was wrong. What he got for his data was wrong. This is the 14th hole, and here's the creek. The 14th hole was meant to play flat from just in front of the creek to 160 yards past it. Well, there's a 40-foot rise there. Well, when the builders found that, they had to figure out what to do. Well, they lengthened the 13th a little bit and took the 14th hole and shifted it back. So now we play up.
Lean it forward.
Lean it forward.
Reflect.
There you go.
There you go.
So the 14th hole now is this uphill to this plateau. It was meant to be a flat hole. It never was built that way. We know that because they could have hit across that. So it's back here. 15th hole stays the same. 11th hole grows longer. So my point is, we know exactly what was drawn. We know what we can remember from stories that we can remember. And the drawings that he drew, there were some shaded areas in places, Bill alluded to it, where it might have been a depression, might have been a bunker. Well, thankfully, Andrew Green is such a historian. He's gone back to Inverness or Scioto or wherever, and when they had that same sketching on their drawings, they had a picture from 1930 that, oh, that was a depression, or that was a hump or a hummock, or that was a bunker. So he's been able to infer from other drawings what Ross drew. And from our drawings, we can see, oh, that wasn't a bunker, that was a depression. So we're marrying what we have in the drawing to what we can best discern what was built from pictures, historical references at other golf courses, and modern technology. So the ball is going further, the greens are mowed much lower, so the greens are faster, so slopes have to be less severe. Sandy and David and Dudley and Sally, Bruce, we remember these greens much slower. So those slopes were not severe. Today we talk about putting a pin where there is 3% grade. When we mapped out the 10th hole, there was nowhere on it that was 3% grade. So essentially you had no pin placements, which we endured those. We putted to them, we chipped to them, we put it off, we chipped back. That was built that way, and it's, you have another 10 somewhere? We know the slope was there, but the technology has changed. So we've married, or Andrew has married what we know was drawn, what we think was built, what we know we can play today. So the 10th hole, okay, was much bigger, much like it is today. It's back, and please, had we not been too long-winded, I wanted to get everyone to get, and look around the room, go to these pictures. There's a bunch of early pictures in this back room that Hugh McCrae gave me. They're numbered on the holes. He even put a little NM on his father, Nelson McCrae, playing the 7th hole. And if you look at that 7th hole, the green is huge. You see the 10th hole, it's huge. We're restoring to the best we can to match modern technology and historical fact, and there you go. There's 7. So that's Nelson McCrae tending the pin. Look how wide and large that green is.
It doesn't look as steep.
And by the way, none of the rhododendron is in here. That's the 6th hole, 5th hole, 4th hole. We've removed that recently. And someone said, why'd you do it? I said, well, it was never there. Rhododendron is beautiful when it blooms, but it's a weed the other 51 weeks.
Bill was talking about rhododendrons from 17 to 18 in the view that was there before all the growth. Could you maybe talk more about it?
If you look at the pictures on the 17th, and
What was the question?
his question was the rhododendron that are inside the cart path on 17, and how you could walk down that. If you look at the pictures of number 17 that we have around here, you don't have any of the rhododendron, and you could look past the green, and you had a long view all the way to 18 green in the clubhouse. And it was just such a spectacular view, I'm sure, from the top of the hill, and I'm sure we had some people in the room that could tell us how it was from the top of the hill, and you could see it. So, and Andrew realizes that, and that was the thing that Ross called a long view. He loved when you're coming down home stretch to have a long view, and that long view would have probably been from the top of the hill past number 17 green into number 18 fairway, 18 green in the clubhouse. And it's really beautiful, only if we could remove the condominium up on top of Sugar. But as far as that goes, he taking out that rhododendron inside the cart path will be something I'm sure he'll do, but that's another. After we get the work done this year, that'll be the last thing we do. So it'll be interesting to see when we get to that point. But that's a good question.
If you ask us a question, I have a set of Centennial logoed coasters for you. Thanks for participating. Thanks for being here. You make Linville what Linville is. Have a great night. Last thing.
So everyone, I think this has been wonderful. I mean, we talked about the past, we actually talked a lot about the future, which is great, and I think we all learned a little Latin today from Tom. Hand up, I was one of the ones that didn't really know where that came from. But this year is the centennial. So as Tom mentioned, we did have, we had the party earlier on June 9th, hitting balls to the McCrae. There's been a variety of events throughout the year that have celebrated the centennial. I think the ladies' member invitation was a wonderful celebration of the centennial. So it's all culminating with the party on August 17th. That's going to be the centennial party and really the featured event of the summer. But one of the things we are doing throughout the summer is we actually had these recipe boxes made in an effort to, have the history of the last 100 years. So much of it's on the golf course, but a lot of it has happened elsewhere. So we're asking everybody, it's been in the Linville Weekly, asking for family recipes. And everyone that submits a family recipe, the first 50, we have recipe boxes that were made. And then we're going to have the cards printed of everybody's family recipe and hand these out. So please, if you have it, instructions are in the Linville Weekly, which is going to go out shortly, I think tomorrow actually, on how to submit the recipes. I have an example here. So this is what they are going to look like. with this, and this one was submitted. But so many of the recipes we've
So we
gotten.
can't see that, that's Dudley.
Yeah. Some of the recipes we've gotten so far have stories attached to them, which is wonderful, again, to connect the dots, whether stories from the golf course, or stories, family stories, or different things. So food is a great connector of history as well, so we're celebrating that as well this summer. So if you do have family recipes, please share one. I think everybody will appreciate it, and then we'll all call you when we try to make it.
And again, right, first 50 get the box.
First 50 will get the box.
That is the old Morgan recipe, and, the young people, they don't like recipes that have tomato soup.